Hello, welcome back. These are the last 6 chapters. You ready? Chapter 40, Ruth. I don't like having eyes on Catherine. Logically, I know she's just a few dozen yards away, sealed in the safety of the Campbell's apartment. Still, my breathing has grown shallow and my chest feels tight. I pace relentlessly, 10 steps forward, swivel, then 10 steps back. Catherine's plan is to throw herself at the Campbell's mercies. She's going to tell them the truth, that she desperately needed to borrow a car last night and made a split-second, foolish decision and hope they forgive her. She says George and June are very kind people. She thinks they'll be understanding. I watch as Catherine walk away from me to face the Campbells, every slow step like a stab to my gut. She rounded her shoulders, preparing to face judgment. It was the same way she walked into all the schools she attended on her first day as a new kid. Heads up, shoulder back. I willed her the message, just as I did on all those first school days. Then she turned the corner and disappeared. She has been gone nearly 15 minutes. I can't help myself. I look down at my iPhone and check her location. She's still in Sunrise. I don't know how long a conversation like the one she's having with George and June should take. Surely not too much longer, though. A breeze cut through the air and I wrapped my arms around myself, shivering. The temperature is plummeting now that the sun has sunk below the horizon. I pack a sweatshirt in my duffel bag, but it's on the other side of the building in the Bonneville in the back of the lot. There's no way I'm leaving this spot. I don't want Catherine to return and not see me. I refresh my Google search on James. No new results. That should be your clue, honey. I try again with different keywords, Oak Hill and field and escape, but there's nothing. I move a little closer to the building. The front of Sunrise is very well lit with wide paved walking paths, yellow lights spilling out from every window. Back here, where residents never come, it's a different story. It's so shadowy, I can't see more than 10 or 15 feet in front of me, and there's an unpleasant smell coming from the big trash dumpster. I wish I could tell which window belongs to the Campbells. I should have asked Catherine what floor they lived on, but I didn't think of it in time. I just feel better if I knew exactly where she was. I sense movement out the corner of my eyes and whip around, but it's only a squirrel darting up the base of a tree. I put a hand over my pounding heart and exhale. My mind and body are growing increasingly jittery. My need to be near Catherine is so intense, it feels like I'm undergoing a chemical withdrawal from her. I counted to 100, then 200, just as I did on that long night ago at Target when I was alone in the darkness. By now, she's been gone nearly 20 minutes. No one is around. It's completely dark. The grounds are deserted. Something is terribly wrong. I feel it deep in my core. My gaze jerks down towards my iPhone again, but there's nothing amiss. Then my eyes widen. Without being consciously aware of why I'm doing it, I reach into my big shoulder bag and pull out my burner phone. I haven't looked at it since I made the call to the police just before 9 a.m. I power on the phone as my pulse gallops faster. It's a cheap device. The screen flickers for a moment, then goes black. Then it comes on for good. My mouth is completely dry. I have one new text message from an unknown number. It came in less than an hour ago. Terror rips through me. My hands are shaking so violently, I nearly drop the phone as I frantically navigate to the message and bring it up. At first, I blink at the screen in bewilderment. There are no words at all. There's an image, though, a small, grainy photograph. I can't see it in this dim light, so I fumble for my iPhone with my free hand and turn on the flashlight. I aim it at the burner's phone screen. It takes me a moment to understand what I'm looking at. Then I dropped the burner phone onto the ground and run towards the entrance of Sunrise, my arms churning, my feet barely touching the ground as I fly across the grass. The photograph was taken as I climbed into the Cadillac in the parking lot of Pizza Piazza at 9 a.m. today. From the angle, I can tell the photographer was standing up on a retaining wall towards the back of the lot by the cover of trees and bushes. Breath, tears at my lung as I forced myself to run even faster. I told James I was an hour away at a hotel in Annapolis. I never asked where he was during our phone call. I assumed he was lying low in a cheap hotel, and that was your problem, honey. But he was in the same parking lot, matching my lies with ones of his own. He was watching me during the whole conversation. He even told me so during our phone call. See you. I told you, girl, James had said moments after he snapped a picture of me. I knew it. Chapter 41, Catherine. My heart is hammering in my chest as I tap my knuckles on the door of George and June's apartment. They live on the first floor in a 2-bedroom corner unit. I can't count the number of times I've knocked on this door before. The Campbells have always opened it with a welcoming smile. That's not going to happen tonight. It takes them an unusual long time to answer. Finally, the door eases open and I see June. Her expression shocks me. I take an involuntary step back. She doesn't appear the slightest bit angry. Instead, her face is full of barely suppressed mirth. Catherine! She leans her cane against the wall and throws her arm around me like it has been months since she has seen me instead of just hours. I'm completely disoriented. My speech is all prepared. I'm ready to grovel, to cry, to do whatever it takes to keep the Campbells from reporting me. George joins us in the narrow entryway, standing next to the little table with a green bowl holding his car keys. Hello, sweetheart, he hugs me, too. You wanted to see me? I stuttered, almost against my will. My eyes are drawn toward the Cadillac keys. Come into the living room, June urges me. There's a surprise waiting for you. I have no idea what is happening, but I force a smile that feels wooden. Close your eyes first, George commands in a playful tone. No peeking. Is George and June James' parents? I obey, and I feel June's cool, bony hand slip into mine. She leads me several steps forward, her cane tapping with each one. I don't need my vision to tell me where we're going. I've spent so much time here that I know every inch of this place. We're standing in the opening to the living room. When I open my eyes, I see their beige sofa and 2 oversized chairs encircling a shiny wooden coffee table. The Campbells know I'm planning to move to Baltimore. Could this be a going away party? The air seems so thickened with an eerie pressure. Open your eyes, June cries. At first glance, the scene before me is anticlimactic. The only guest is a man quietly sitting on the couch. For a split second, I'm even more confused than I was when I arrived. I have no idea who this man is and why the Campbell summoned me. Then my eyes drift past his deeply muscled arms and overdeveloped shoulders to his face. He's bald now. He must have shaved his head, and his glasses are gone, but I recognize his features. All the breath rushes out of me, like I've taken a punch to the solar plexus. James stands and walks to my side as a wave of terror engulfs me. This can't be happening. Not here in George and June's cozy apartment with the 2 of them thinking this is a joyful moment. James stretches his arms out and I flinch, but all he does is trap me in a hug. Being pressed to his chest is like being squeezed against a cement block. Call me David, he whispered, snakes into my ear. June claps her hands together. Can you believe the coincidence? She says. George and I were out to dinner tonight, and your cousin came in a minute later and sat at the next table over, and we all started chatting. And it turns out He was in town to surprise you. I'm dizzy. I stepped into a surreal scene, one James is directing. He has dressed the stage and arranged the players. He pretends to be a man who doesn't exist, my cousin David. The Campbells believe we're having a family reunion, which of course we are, but I'm the only one here who knows the truth about my relationship to James. How long has it been since you last saw each other, George asks. James stares directly at me and I feel the blood drain out my face. His tone is warm and light. It seems like forever, but at the same time, it feels like I just saw you last night. Doesn't it, Catherine? Oh, he petty. Every word is a needle driving into my skin. James is enjoying this. He's feasting on my fear. How did James find the Campbells, or even have any idea of their connections to me? Then I see the answer as clearly as if I'm reaching into the folder. 10 left for me and pulling out the clues James used to track me down. The parking sticker for Sunrise. The Campbells have one on the back window of their Cadillac. When I went to Pizza Piazza last night, James entered the restaurant after me. I told y'all he was healthy. But that doesn't mean I got there first. I said that. He could have been surveying the crowded lot, watching as I stepped out of the Cadillac. He would have recognized me from my Facebook photo. All he had to do to notice the Sunrise sticker was walk over to check out the car I drove up in. June seems to be picking up on my distress. Her smile slips away and a crease forms between her eyebrows. Catherine, is everything okay, honey? James walks back over to the couch as the silence stretches out, and George turns to look at me too. They can't see James clearly from their vantage point, which is why James is able to reach down and pinch a piece of his jeans between his fingers, pulling up the hem without anyone else noticing. I've never seen a real gun before. James' expression carries a menace equal to the gleaming black weapon in his ankle holster. If I don't play along, will he kill us all? Tears spill out of my eyes. I'm so happy I can barely talk. I choke out the words. June smiles. She bought it. James let his hem drop. His face morphs back into that of a genuine, ordinary man. George, let's get some drinks going and give these two a moment alone. June reaches for her cane and she and George head to their kitchen. The silence they leave behind feels like a gaping void. I stare at James, still unable to comprehend how he found me so quickly. Somehow, he eluded the trap my mother set for him and tracked me here. Sit with me, Catherine. James tapped the cushion next to him. I'm terrified to obey. I'm even more scared to refuse. I walk over on shaky legs and sink down next to him, keeping as much a distance between us as possible. James takes my iPhone out of my hand and places it on the coffee table closer to him than me. Any hope I had of secretly texting my mother evaporates. We have a friend in common, James says softly. I need to know where she is. A friend? I'm playing catch up. I have no idea how much James knows. I shift away and James inches closer to me, a smile playing at the corner of his mouth. He's deliberately pinning me against the arm of the couch. She hired you to find me. Now you're going to find her for me. James wants to know where my mother is, but he doesn't know she's my mother. You sure? A loud pop explodes in the kitchen and I recoil, instinctively curling my head down towards my knees. James doesn't even flinch. He laughs as I slow lift my head. It was only a champagne cork coming out. June and George truly believe this is a celebratory night. You drove the Cadillac to the restaurant last night, James says, confirming my suspicion that he watched me exit the car and walk into Pizza Piazza. Then he continues, but Ava picked up the Cadillac this morning, so you must have seen her and given her the keys. That means you know how to reach her. You probably even know where she lives. I threw out her name to the Campbells, but they didn't react. But when I brought up your name, they kept raving about what a wonderful young woman you were. I shake my head, but James keeps talking. We're going to sit here for 10 minutes and have a drink, and you're going to act delighted to be reunited with your long-lost cousin. Then we're going to get into your car, and you're going to take me to Ava. James' voice is calm and steady. His jeans and the long-sleeved navy polo shirt that covers his prison tattoo are neat and clean. His breath, so close to my face, smells minty. The juxtaposition is dizzying. He's a monster trapped in the facade of a man. If you try to signal George and June, or if you run, I will kill them both before you get halfway to the door. I have no doubt he means it. George and June come back into the room. George is carrying a tray with 4 champagne flutes, and June has a silver bowl of mixed nuts in her free hands. June sets the dish on the coffee table as George passes out the drinks. My fingers are trembling so badly I nearly slosh the golden liquid over the rim of the glass. George raises his glass. To family. We clink flutes, and I tip my glass and let the champagne touch my lips, but my throat feels too tight for me to swallow any. I hope our little prank didn't shock you too much, Catherine, June says. We gave David a ride here from the restaurant to make sure your Bonneville was still in the lot. Then we signed him in as our guest, so you'd truly be surprised. You got me, I say. George has an interest in cars. He knows mine because I once asked him for advice when I thought a mechanic was overcharging us for a new carburetor. I'll need to catch a ride back with Catherine to pick up my car, James laughed, and I pretend to laugh along with him as my mind whirls. I have to do something soon. Once James gets me alone in the vehicle, it'll be too late. There's an emergency pull cord in the bathroom. If I can get to it, someone from the nursing staff will be at our door quickly. But then what? James might just decide to shoot his way out of the apartment. I can't risk antagonizing him until we're away from George and June. Catherine? Everyone is staring at me. I must have missed a question. I'm sorry, I say. James reaches over and takes my hand in his while revulsion curls my stomach. I was just wondering if you and David are related through your mother's side, June inquired. James shakes his head. I'm on her father's side. James knows that Catherine is his daughter. That's a clue. June brows creases. I frantically try to recall what I've told her of my family history. Probably not much, other than I live with my mother and have no siblings. Certainly, I've never mentioned a cousin to her. If June's followed up her line of questioning, she might unravel enough to grow suspicious. She could unearth enough holes in James' story to worry her, maybe even make her concerned enough to call the police after James and I leave. June's face clears. How nice. She's too polite to dig. I try to pull my hand away from James. He grips it tighter until my bones grind painfully together. June told me how wonderful you were in taking care of her after her stroke and managing her diabetes medicine, James says easily. I always knew you'd be a good nurse, Catherine. James looked every bit the proud older cousin. He's a chameleon, adapting to his circumstances. No wonder he fooled the Campbells. He must have been parked somewhere on the road outside of Sunrise, waiting for the distinctive Cadillac to exit. Once he recognized it, he followed George and June to the restaurant and snagged the next table and began a conversation. James already had my true name and knew I had a relationship with the Campbells because of the car. He could have laid down any number of conversational tracks to get them to pinpoint their connection to me. Then he set the trap I walked into. When Catherine was a little girl, I used to babysit her. One Halloween, she even dressed up as a nurse. Remember that plastic stethoscope and blood pressure cuff you had? James laughed. I forced myself to smile again. I feel as stiff as a marionette, waiting for James to pull my strings and direct my movements. How many years older are you, David? George asked. Well, let's see. Catherine, remind me again? Jane prompts. I know I sent a card for your last birthday, but in my mind, you're still a little girl with pigtails. He about to find out. If he don't know, he about to find out. 27, I lie, hoping to muddy as many details about myself as I can. The moment I uttered that number, though, I wish I could snatch it back. And I'm 43, James says. Since I was 16 when Catherine was born, everyone figured I was old enough to babysit when we got together. I must be getting forgetful in my old age, June jokes. Catherine, I could have sworn you were 24. James moves his head slowly to stare at me as his grip of my hand intensifies. I nearly whimper from the pain. He has cataloged the discrepancy. Now I've highlighted the information in his mind as something significant. It feels as if a noose is tightened around my neck. My mind whirls as I try to envision what will come next. My mother is outside around the back of Sunrise. If James takes me out the front, she'll never even notice I've left the building. How long have the three of you known each other? James asks, releasing my aching hand and leaning back and putting an arm around the sofa behind me. I instinctively leaned forward as if we're counterbalancing. I can't stand the thought of him touching me again. 6 years, June replies. Her brows creases briefly, and I suspect she is remembering that I came to work at Sunrise and met her right after I graduated from high school, which means the age I just pretended to be is incorrect. Please don't say anything else. I will hear the message. Anyone need a refill? George offers. My drink is still untouched, and James and George's are half full. If June nods, I can jump up and run to the kitchen under the guise of bringing back the bottle of champagne. Maybe I can find something to defend myself with there. But before she can answer, James stands up. This was lovely, but we shouldn't keep you any longer. I'm sure you both have things to do, and Catherine and I are going to meet up with an old friend. My time is running out. Let me get a picture of you two together before you go, George offers. Oh, that isn't, I begin. Trust me, you'll be glad you have it later, June chimes in. The last thing I want is to stand pressed up against James. Sure, let me just help you clean up first, I say, scooping up my glass and James before anyone can protest. I linger in the small kitchen as long as I dare, glancing at the butcher block of knives on the counter. I left my backpack with my mom, and the pockets of my shorts are too shallow to conceal a long knife. My iPhone is still on the coffee table, and there's no landline in the kitchen. And I'm positive the Campbells don't keep a gun in their apartment. Plus, I don't know how to use one. I'm hoping by the time I come back out, the photograph will be forgotten. But when James sees me emerge, he says, Catherine, and lifts up his right arm and gesture an invitation. I have no choice. George scoops up my iPhone as I walk to James' side. James wraps his arms around me, drawing me close again as George tells us to smile. Let me just make sure this came out okay. George frowns and uses 2 fingers to enlarge the picture on the screen. Wow. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. Wow. I didn't see it before. But you can really tell in this photo that you two are related. Oh my God. A shrieking noise erupts in my head. Adrenaline floods my body. I'm seized by the desperate urge to run, but I'm trapped as James' steely arms tighten around me. George tilts his screens to show the picture to June. Oh, yes, I see it too. You have the same beautiful blue eyes. They must run in the family. James turns to me slowly, reaches with his free hand to tip up my chin. I'm completely helpless at his unblinking eyes as his unblinking eyes bore into mine. I can see the precise moment the realization clicks in his mind. James, no, I'm his daughter. Oh, and that's the end of chapter 41. Oh my goodness. But I knew that James was smarter than that. I knew he was there when he said, see you. And I don't know why Ruth didn't put it together sooner. And now he just found out. I thought he knew. And because of some of the things he was saying, so that made me think that he knew. But even if he had some type of doubts that she was his, he know for sure now. Thanks to the Campbells. But let's see. Will Catherine get out of this situation when they go through the lobby? Go downstairs and go out. Is he going to take it out the front or out the back? Because Ruth, she knows something is up and she know he there. So what is Ruth's plan? We going to have to find out. See you in chapter 42. Bye.